Rahui Katini.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I found it very interesting listening to that last speaker talking about the household economy, saying that the first rule is that you do not spend more than you borrow, and the second rule is that you do not spend more than you earn, and that the second rule is that you do not borrow more than what you can pay off. Does he not realise that those are mutually exclusive? Because if you're living within your means, then you shouldn't need to borrow. In May of this year, in the first flush of post-budget analysis, Kerry MacDonald, the chair of the Savings Working Group, bemoaned the continued lack of robust strategic economic thinking in New Zealand. In his view, the real extent of the problems facing the New Zealand economy are fundamental structural issues that have to be dealt with. There is no clear statement of where the government wants to take the country. There is little attention to the structure of our economic system. Instead, we seem to always be responding to symptoms, and there is little appetite for long-term thinking in the national interest. Add to these the persistent concerns around our high debt level, a comprehensive lack of savings, and the fact that the household income for most households has not been growing, and I think we start to get some sense of the dimensions of the problem. It's a no-brainer that we are operating within fiscal constraints, and so there is even more incentive for bringing a heightened level of transparency and accountability to government expenditure. Within the Māori Party, our demand for excellence pushes us even further to demand whole-of-government effectiveness for Māori. The rights and responsibilities of tangata whenua, embodied in the concept of tūranga waiwai, bring with it the highest standards of citizenship. Yet in the current economy, citizenship is consistently exchanged for economic access. In effect, this reduces the mana of citizenship and increases the mana of economic roles. The idea that each person is equal in value is increasingly replaced by the idea that each dollar is equal, and people with more dollars are therefore deemed more important and meaningful. The Māori Party has great concerns around the nature of such thinking, and we seek to lead the conversation for all New Zealand that economic policies must be built around social and cultural structures. Economic success involves more than monetary profit, consumption, and solely economic factors. We believe firmly in the proposition that what is good for Māori is good for New Zealand, and so our interest, therefore, is in establishing initiatives which replace the current policy emphasis on matching external economic indices with matching or exceeding external quality of life indices. Such bold thinking by the Māori Party is in line with the United Nations General Assembly, which just 3 weeks ago called on member states to undertake steps that give more importance to happiness and well-being in determining how to achieve and measure social and economic development. The Assembly invited countries, and I quote, to pursue the elaboration of additional measures that better capture the importance of the pursuit of happiness and well-being in development with a view to guiding their public policies, noting that the pursuit of happiness is a fundamental human goal. The General Assembly resolution says that happiness is critical in advancing economic growth and social progress. The resolution called on a balanced approach to economic growth that can lead to sustainable development, poverty eradication, happiness and well-being of the planet. The Māori Party is really pleased with the progress being promoted internationally and sees them as being very much on the same line of thinking that we have been progressing through the Genuine Progress Indicator. Our interest in GPI came about in recognising that the GDP indicator was never designed to and cannot adequately reflect the happiness and well-being of people in a country. In short, it brings about an approach in which unsustainable patterns of production and consumption actually work against sustainable development. So I want to demonstrate how we have tried to promote new ways of thinking in some of the portfolios in which Māori Party ministers have provided leadership. In the focus around Māori economic development, we have expressed our support for economic systems to be aligned with or driven by social and cultural systems. The Minister of Māori Affairs has pioneered key initiatives in Māori tourism, Māori productivity and export growth, Māori innovation and Māori skills acquisition, including cadetships and the relationship with Infratrain. His strategy has promoted the use of whanaungatanga as a Māori-led approach to international trade, commercial relationships with Māori living overseas, and Māori enterprise initiatives in the domestic economy. We have seen evidence of this strategy in both the Māori Economic Task Force and Summit and the delegation to China. What we are doing is both building on the cultural strength and entrepreneurial acumen of Māori to also lead to social and economic outcomes. Another aspect of a kaupapa-driven approach to economic development comes through the development of a language strategy. In the Māori Affairs Select Committee report, there was coverage of the revitalisation of Te Reo Māori. I noted with disappointment the comments around the inability of institutions to deliver the desired increase in the number of speakers and the depth of Te Reo comprehension. When we look at balancing the accounts, while we know Te Reo Rangatira can contribute to wealth generation both nationally and internationally, the value of the language asset is not being realised if we have poor institutional commitment. This is a complex and fascinating process which will bring New Zealanders into close relationship with our very foundations as a nation. And as proud uri o Aitahu, I have to say how delighted I am that we have a distinguished statesman in Tā Tipene O'Regan leading the way, along with the very impressive membership, including Emeritus Professor Ranginui Walker, Professor Linda Smith, Dr. Leonie Pihama, and Henerewa Poutu. The second major platform of our policy transformation is, of course, whānau ora. The 2011-12 budget invested another $30 million in whānau ora, which was a key source of interest at Select Committee, and rightly so. Whānau ora is an incredible initiative which I think has received universal support around the House and indeed around the country. And so it absolutely reflects the efforts we have made to model a new approach for a kaupapa-driven economy. Whānau ora seeks to reflect the aspirations of whānau and support them in self-managing and taking responsibility for their own social, cultural, lost my page. Development. I've got to say that meeting with whānau around the country who have been involved in whānau ora already, even though they have not yet managed to access any of the funding from whānau ora, those that are readying themselves for that transformation have made a transformation in themselves. They have realised that whānau ora means that they can make a difference in their own lives. And so I have to say that as the Māori Party moves on through and starts to make sure that our policy is included within those of the bigger parties, that we are making a difference. We are making a difference and we are proud of making that difference. Mr Speaker, the Māori Party is pleased to support this budget. We will be even more pleased when this budget reflects the economic reality of what we need to be doing here in New Zealand, a kaupapa-driven economy. Kia ora.
Thank you. I call David Bennett.
Thank you, Mr Speaker.